Welcome back, everybody, to the webinar series on Pirkei Avos, the ethics of our fathers. My apologies for this past Thursday, I was away. We'll continue on now with Mishna Tesvav in chapter 1, so that's Mishnah number 15 in chapter 1 of Pirkei Avos. We'll read it inside and then give some deeper explanations. So this Mishnah is Shammai Omer, Shammai says. So the past few Mishnahs we have been discussing different sayings that Hillel used to say, and as we've explained, most of the first chapter is going through different zugos, different pairs of sages that lived at the same time. One was the leader of the generation, one was the leader of the Bezdin, the Af Bezdin, and they both led together. So we mentioned Hillel, and now I'm going to mention Shammai, who was the other sage during his time. Shammai Omer, Shammai says, Asei toiroscha keva. Make your Torah, that literally is translated as make your Torah fixed, which the simple meaning of that is that your Torah learning should be the ikr, should be the main thing that whenever you have time, you are learning, and not that it's your second priority. Everything else in life should be as a second priority. Torah learning, the study of the Torah, should be your first priority in life. As it says in the pasuk, as it says in the verse, v'dibarta bam, you should be speaking in them constantly, you should be constantly speaking in the words, you should be constantly speaking the words of Torah. The next statement he says is, Emoir me'at v'aseh harbe. Say a little and do a lot. Famous statement. And what that means on a very simple level is that when you promise to do good to somebody else, always promise to do a little, but then do a lot. Like it says, the difference between tzaddikim, righteous people, and Rishoyim, wicked people, is that tzaddikim, for example, Avraham Avinu, Abraham, when he had the angels as guests, he said to them, I'll give you a piece of bread. Stay by me and I'll give you a piece of bread. In the end, he slaughtered 3 whole cows to give them. So he promised them a little, but he actually did a lot. On the other hand, it's brought down that Rishoyim, wicked people, for example, Ephraim, the one who sold Avraham Avinu, the one who sold Abraham the Maras HaMachpelah, the cave where our forefathers and mothers are buried, he said that I'll give it to you for free, but he ended up actually taking a huge sum of money as payment for it. So he said a lot, but actually did a little. So the righteous and what's supposed to be done is that you say a little, you promise a little bit, but you obviously end up doing much more than that. And the third statement is, you should always receive everybody, you should always meet everybody with a smiling face and with a shining countenance. It says that if somebody gives somebody all the presents of the world, anything that you can give them, but it's with a sad face, it's considered as if you gave them nothing. But if it's the opposite, even if you didn't give somebody anything, but you just smiled at them, it's as if you've given them all the presents of the world. Obviously, this is only regarding a certain aspect of it, but a very important part of it. And another saying of our rabbis, of our sages, is that it is better to show somebody white teeth than to feed them milk. Which means, in other words, it is on a certain level, it is better to smile at somebody, to greet somebody with a smile, even more than actually feeding. Let's get into a little bit deeper in the general part of the Mishnah. So we had a couple of statements of Hillel, and now we had a statement of Shammai. Some commentaries explain that Shammai is actually clarifying something that Hillel said. Hillel said in one of the previous Mishnahs that somebody who doesn't learn the way he's supposed to is chayav misa, which means liable to the death penalty. And we explained that obviously doesn't mean literally, but it's just trying to bring out how harsh it is and how bad it is when someone doesn't study. Shammai is now clarifying what that means. He says that it doesn't mean that somebody has to study the entire day, and if they don't, they're chayav misa. What that does mean is that quality-wise, that the primary focus of a person's life should be the study of the Torah. Other commentaries take this to a different direction and actually explain that Shammai is arguing with some of the things that Hillel has said in the previous Mishnahs. And we'll just go through 2 of them. The Barbanel explains as follows. Hillel holds that Torah, the study of Torah, is the ikr, is the primary focus of a person's life, And Maisa, an action, that's secondary. In other words, even more important than doing mitzvahs and than fulfilling God's commandments in action is actually the study of the Torah. And on that, Shammai says, no, Asei Toiros Chakeva. Your learning should be the primary focus. Learning Torah should be your primary focus. And he continues, Emoir Ma'at. So he says, Shammai says, Asei Toiros Chakeva. Learning Torah should be the primary focus. That's true. However, Emoir Ma'at, say a little bit, Va'asei harbe, and do a lot. Because although it's important that Torah should be a focus, and you should have fixed times to learn Torah, but Shammai argues with Hillel, and he says that Hillel holds that Torah is the main thing, but I say, Emoir Ma'at, say a little bit, relative to Asei harbe, do a lot, in action, that's the main thing. And then he continues and he says that it's not only actions bein adam lamokim, between man and God, that is even more important than the study of Torah, but even actions between man and fellow man, that's even more important than the study of Torah. And that's what he continues in this third statement. Receive every single person with a shining countenance, meaning the action of being good and nice to people in a way is even more important than the study of Torah according to Shammai. So again, just to clarify, Hillel says that the study of Torah is the main thing, and then Shammai comes along and says, although it's true, Asei Toiros Chakeva, that you have to set aside times to learn Torah, but I hold, says Shammai, Emoir Ma'at, say a little bit relative to Asei harbe, to the actions, which is the main thing. Another differentiation, another dispute here between Shammai and Hillel that the Koil Avos explains is how to bring somebody close to Torah and Judaism, to Torah and mitzvahs. When somebody is far, how to bring them close. Hillel holds that it has to be an active pursuit of bringing people close. As he said in the previous Mishnah, Oyev Shalom, Beroidev Shalom, seek peace and love peace, Oyeves Abrios, Umekarvan La Torah, love the creations and bring them close to Torah. You actually have to go actively out and bring people close to Torah. Shammai says no, he has a whole different approach. He says, Asei Toiros Chakeva, make your Torah permanent, meaning work on yourself, perfect yourself. Emoir Ma'at, say a little bit to others, Va'asei harbe, and do a lot for yourself. And that's the way that you'll affect other people. When other people will look at you and see a person which learns Torah, which keeps mitzvahs, which has perfected himself, then that automatically shines a light and automatically brings other people close. So there's two different approaches. One approach is to actively go out and bring people close. That's Hillel's approach. Shammai's approach is, no, show everybody what it looks like to be a Torah Jew. Show everybody what it looks like to keep God's commandments, and people will automatically be attracted to that. And of course, it's well known that whenever you have a dispute in Torah, Elu v'Elu, Divrei Elokim Chaim, both are the words of God, both are true to a certain degree, and therefore in this case also, in order to bring other people close, the truth is that you need both. You do need to actively go out and try to bring other people close. However, that only works when you have Shammai's approach, when the person himself is not perfect, but is working on himself to be perfect in Torah and mitzvahs. Now let's go into a little bit more in depth each statement. So the first statement was, Asei Toiros Chakeva, make your Torah learning permanent. So Tosfos explains that it's not that what does this mean? You know, he's not just telling you to learn Torah, because of course Pirkei Avos is not telling you the laws of what you need to do, and obviously it's a mitzvah to learn Torah. I don't need Pirkei Avos to tell me that. But Tosfos explains that what Shammai is saying over here is that in addition just to learning Torah whenever you have spare time, a person needs to have fixed times. It's called kfiyus itim l'Torah. Set aside times to learn Torah. That no matter what happens, you're learning at that time. And that's what it actually says in Shulchan Aruch, in the Jewish Code of Law, that it is important that a person has set fixed times to learn Torah, in addition to when you have spare time. But you always also have to have set fixed times that you're going to study Torah then, no matter what comes up. Other commentaries explain that Toiroscha over here is actually referring specifically to Torah, meaning Mikra, the Chumash, the written Torah specifically. Because most of our time is actually not spent learning the written Torah. Most of our time seems to be spent on learning Gemara, the oral law, the Mishna, Gemara, our sages, Shulchan Aruch, the Jewish code of law. Our Mishnah is telling us, don't forget about learning Chumash, don't forget about learning the written Torah. As it says in the Gemara, that la'olam yishalesh adam shnoisav, a person should divide his years into thirds. That a third you should be learning the written Torah, a third you should be learning Mishnah, and a third you should be learning Talmud. And the Gemara over there asks, what do you mean? How can a person divide their life into three? How do I know how many years I'm going to live? So how can I divide my years into thirds if I don't know how many years there are? So the Gemara explains that it means days. And actually, there are different commentaries on what the Gemara means by that. Rashi explains, and it means you divide the week into three. Tosfos explains that you have to divide every day into three. But either way, what are we trying to bring out over here? That a person has to set aside special time to learn Torah specifically, meaning the written Torah and not only the oral law. There is a commentary which explains this on a little bit of a deeper level, and it says, Asay Toirascha. Toirascha refers to a person's intentions, refers to a person's intellect, a person's mind. And what it's saying is that in a way, to a certain degree, the kavana, a person's intent when they're doing mitzvahs, that in a way is the main thing. As it says in the Gemara, that it is better to do an aveira lishma than a mitzvah shaloi lishma, which means it is better to do a sin but have the right intentions, because you meant to do the right thing but it ended up going wrong, than doing the right thing but having the wrong intentions. In a way, obviously at the end of the day it's better to do the right thing, but in a certain way it is better an aveira lishma, it is better to do a wrong thing but with the right intention than to do a good thing with the wrong intentions. And that's what our Mishna is saying. Asay toiroscha keva, make your Torah, meaning your mind, your intention keva, fixed in the correct direction. The Rashbatz explains an interesting thing. He says, Asay Toiroscha keva means make your Torah fixed, meaning be equal. Don't be lenient on yourself and strict on other people. The same expectations that you have for yourself, you need to have for everybody else. That's what it means. Asay Toiroscha keva. Don't be lenient on yourself and then go and be strict on other people, expect more from other people. It should be keva, it should be fixed, it should be equal. Why does it say Toiroscha, your Torah? Asay Toiroscha, your Torah. Just say Asay Torah. Why Toiroscha, your Torah? So the Chidah explains that we're talking about a person, and again, Pirkei Avos is not just talking about the regular average person, it's talking about Milsa de Chasidusa, more of a pious individual. That Asay Toiroscha is talking about a person that it's not that there's them and there's the Torah as two separate things, but they've become so much one with Torah that the whole day they're walking around thinking Torah. That means them and the Torah are one. It's Asay Toiroscha, it's your Torah. You and the Torah, it's you are the Torah. You and the Torah are one entity. The Ruach Chaim explains that when it says Asay Toiroscha, that means because Torah ultimately is the only thing that you do for yourself. Everything else that you do, which is physical in this world, ultimately, when a person leaves this world, they leave that behind also, and it's only left for the future generations. You do it for the betterment of society, for the future of the world, but not so much for yourself. Torah is eternal. The Torah that you learn will benefit you in this world and in the next. And therefore, it's Asay Toiroscha, it's your Torah. It's not only for the future of the world, but it's also for your Torah. The Maram Shik explains, Asay Toiroscha means that certain people have a profession which they need, or everybody really. They have a part of Torah which is applicable specifically for them. And he brings an example. For example, if somebody's a tailor, they have to know the Hilchas Shatnez, the various laws about mixing different materials together that the Torah says is forbidden. If somebody is a shaychet, if somebody slaughters animals, they have to know the halachas of, they have to know the laws of shchita, of slaughter. And so too, if someone's in business, they have to know the laws of business. So therefore, that's what it means in the Mishnah, Say Toiroscha keva, that you have to make sure to learn the Torah, besides for you have to learn the whole Torah, because you have to learn Torah. Besides for that, a person's focus has to also be on the Torah which applies to them, which they need to know in order to conduct their life specifically according to the ways of Torah. Have a great day.